Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Gautam, his name is Mason, and we have returned from Kansas City victorious. I think we were victorious, the Royals not so much. Uh,
Yes.
we had a great trip. We're hoping to tell you a little bit about that trip and some of the other important happenings around the game over the last week or so. How are you doing today, Mason?
Doing all right. A little tired, a little worn out from the 4th of July holiday, but we
Sure.
are resting up. We are back at work. Those two things don't really go hand in hand, but you know what? Here we are.
Keep
So,
moving forward. That's
oh
all we
yeah.
can do.
So, ready for our next baseball trip in a month and a week? Is it August 15th? Is that or the
I think it's
21st?
the week after that.
Okay, the 21st-ish.
Yeah. So we're about 7, 8 weeks away now. Yeah. But yeah. So we went to Kansas City over the weekend of June 27th, and we had a great time. So we went to two Royals games on Friday and Sunday. They were playing the Dodgers. We had a very awesome trip to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, sandwiched in between those two baseball games. We got to enjoy some of Kansas City culture and food,
Some of their
and
finest barbecue.
it was fantastic.
He spent so
Um,
much money on barbecue, man.
so worth it though,
It was.
worth every
I
penny.
was telling my boss about it today. Um, just for a little bit of background info here, my boss was born and raised in Kansas City, so I told him we were going, and we were talking about like, well, what barbecue are you gonna have? Where are you gonna go? And so we went to a couple that he recommended, and then we went to one that he didn't. But when I talked to him today, he's like, "Oh, you made some good choices there." All right.
Yeah, yeah. So where should we start? Let's start with the baseball maybe on Friday. We went to the open game of the series. There were just tons of Dodgers fans across Kansas City that we saw all weekend. Obviously, a team that travels really well, and with Kansas City being such a, I think it's kind of like a unique destination because it's kind of like in the middle of the country, um, but it's got just such a history in baseball with the Negro Leagues, with Negro Leagues teams playing there, the Royals being a team that's now been around since the 60s. It's like,
And I know that we're talking about baseball pretty much exclusively here, but Kansas City is incredibly historic for all sorts of different cultural things. All of the like a lot of jazz musicians back from the 20s, 30s, 40s, Count Basie, Charlie Parker, some other folks like that. They're all from Kansas City. Kansas City was kind of one of those meccas in the middle of nowhere for folks that were trying to escape to a better life. So during the Great Migration of folks from the farms to the city, Kansas City was kind of a hub for anyone basically west of St. Louis, because there isn't another big city until you get to Denver, and that's in the mountains in a very, very long drive by current standards from Kansas City. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of incredibly unique things in Kansas City, and then they have their incredible baseball history.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good way to put it. Um, and the game on Friday was really exciting. It started off with a bang. It started off with Shohei hitting a leadoff homer. Um,
His
and
29th of the
then
season.
yes, 29th of the season. And it was a bomb. It went into the fountains in right field. Um, and then the Royals actually picked up a number of runs. They scored 4 runs in the early innings. So it looked like, hey, the Royals are actually scoring and they've got pretty good pitching. They might be able to win this game. And Shohei willed them back.
Well, another small note here. Coming into that game, the Royals had been or had scored, I think, one run over the last like 4 days. So they had been incredibly cold. I think
Yep.
you went and looked it up, and prior to that Friday game, they had they had scored 5 runs or more in a game 5 times out of 41 tries at
At
home
home.
up to that Friday. They had
Yep.
only scored 4 runs or more. I think it was 11 times.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
So them putting up 4 runs pretty early, it just seemed like maybe they were going to break out of it. And yeah, 4 runs is a heck of a lot more than they'd had before that. They almost had that 5th run. They had him on
They did.
third, right?
Yes, they had the bases loaded in the ninth inning with a chance to come back. They're down by one. Shohei had actually scored the go-ahead run after hitting a triple to tie the game earlier in the ball game, and you got basically exactly what you want out of a baseball game in terms of being competitive all the way to the end. The Royals, the home team, had a chance to win it there in the bottom of the ninth, and their rookie phenom Jack Caglione up to bat, and
My
very
home run
first pitch,
challenge pick for the day.
your home run challenge pick of the day, did not hit a home run. He hit the very first pitch right into the ground, slow roller to second base, turned, and then a scoop at first base by Freddie Freeman to seal that ball game for a Dodgers win.
Yeah, it was incredibly exciting for a massive letdown.
Yeah, yeah,
But in that game, we got to see a couple of superstars hit some pretty big bombs. Bobby hit one to left center, right? Or
yep,
correct?
yep.
Max Muncy pulverized a baseball, winning
Dead
you a
center.
Jersey.
Yes.
And then there was one other Royal that hit a bomb.
Was there?
I thought so. Wasn't it like Kyle Isbell or someone stupid?
No, I don't know if they had another homer, but I cannot remember. I feel like there was another one though. I think you're right.
Yeah, give me 1 second and I will find it. Saturday the
It was Friday,
Friday the
27th.
27th.
Yep.
My computer's still laggy. Oh, there were quite a few errors in that too. Now that I think about it, that was frustrating. Um,
I think it was
okay,
just the one
no, it
homer. I
was
just
just
found
those
it.
three. It
Yeah.
was just Bobby, Max Muncy, and Shohei. I think I'm
Yeah.
thinking the game 2 that we
The
watched on
Saturday.
TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think the Royals, like, they actually had one of their better efforts. They had quite a few base runners. They just didn't convert all of them. And when you only score 4 runs against the Dodgers, you don't win that much. So from that perspective, not surprising, but it was a really good game. We enjoyed our seats down the first base line, kind of in the mezzanine level. And I don't
We
know,
made a
like
new
what?
friend. If you're listening, hi. Um, it was fun. I
Yeah,
I think I make a friend in every single game we go to. Is that
you do.
reasonable to say?
Yeah, we don't know our friend's name though, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
if he's listening to the podcast,
yeah.
you
Reach
know who
out.
you are.
Yeah, reach
Yeah.
out. Um,
But I guess what are your thoughts on Kauffman Stadium?
so the stadium, I kept mentioning this to you. I had almost zero expectations going in. I honestly thought the stadium was going to suck because a lot of the discourse around that stadium is the Royals need a new stadium. The Royals need a downtown stadium. The stadium is old, it's decrepit, it's yada 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 yada. And also, the Royals just aren't really that good. So I kind of assumed that they weren't putting much effort into the park either. Sort of similar to what Cincinnati does. Because you go to Cincinnati, I'm sure at one part or one point in time, Great American Ballpark was probably pretty nice. Now it's just sad. It's faded. It just, there's not much there. So we get to Kaufman, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. Shares a facility called the Truman Sports Complex with Arrowhead Field or Arrowhead
GEHA.
State. Geha Field or Geha
Yeah.
Stadium. Yeha
I
Field
think
at
it's
Arrowhead
they have
Stadium.
field. Yeah,
I
something
think
like
that's what
that.
it is. Um, but this was like the first sports complex of its kind with a uh, football stadium and a separate baseball only stadium built together back in 1971 when they opened initially. So it's pretty old by current standards. In 2009, they actually renovated the stadium. They put $1 billion across both of the stadiums combined. Um, and they did a really, really good job. So you
Mhm.
walk around and it's small, but it's Kansas City. So you're not expecting to draw 50,000 fans a game. It's just not that big of a city. It's kind of hard for a lot of people to travel to unless they're going out of their way, because you can't make a day trip for a city an hour and a half away. It's 4 hours from the nearest city, which is St. Louis, which is also not a massive city. So, but it's so cool because all of the seats are just between the foul poles, essentially. There's some in the outfield now. Those were not original to the stadium. The fountains are gorgeous. The Royals Vision, which is what they call their giant scoreboard TV thing, which has had, I think, three
Three,
iterations.
three iterations, yeah. But
Yeah.
now we got 5.95 million LEDs in that backlight there. But yeah, and I think the thing that stood out to me is that it doesn't really seem like you could have a bad view of the game. And that
Yeah.
seems like a critical aspect of a stadium. So they designed it well the first time. I agree the renovations make it feel modern. It doesn't feel like Angel Stadium, which kind of feels decrepit, old.
Yeah, and they're only
Uh,
5 years different in age as far as
right.
opening.
So it's
So
like that era of ballpark. They've clearly given it a good facelift, but the original design was good enough because you can't fix it if the sight lines are wrong, and they weren't. It's
yeah.
got that big bowl, and both Friday where we sat in the mezzanine, and then when we sat on field level in the 200 section on Sunday, um, I really liked both of those views of the game.
Same. And Kaufman's unique in that it's the only baseball specific stadium to be built between 1964 and 1990. And it's the only one. Everything else was a multi-purpose stadium that was built with or between those dates for Major League Baseball. After that, then you got Camden Yard. That was the very next one that was not a multi-purpose. And so they did a very, very good job of making sure that it fit the need of just this club and the fans for this club. In the outfield, there's a spectacular like children's area that has mini golf. It has
Yeah.
like your pitching in batting cage and all that stuff that you'd have at a lot of stadiums. They had a couple other things out there that were just incredible, honestly.
Yeah, it's very
Not
family
anything I
friendly.
expected in any stadium, let alone Kansas City.
Yeah, it's like family friendly, but not in like a minor league way, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like a gimmick. It feels like, oh, this is like an actual good attraction that families would like, people like, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just there's a
And
lot going on
and they
in this
made
small
sure to
stadium.
incorporate a lot of the local restaurants, like Joe's Kansas City has a place um there in the stadium. Boulevard Brewing has two locations there in the stadium. All these big Kansas City like uh, uh, cornerstones essentially are in the park,
Yep.
which
And then
seeing as there's
probably
nothing outside the park, it's very, very nice to have it in the park. Because
and we
there's
haven't
nothing outside the stadium. There's not
right,
a
yeah.
hotel that you can stay at. There's like two very small ones, but nothing that's like you're gonna be there for a weekend. You kind of want to go stay in downtown or go stay in Independence. You don't want to stay right at the Truman Sports Complex.
Yeah. So in that regard, yeah, it's old school because it's the ball game and everything in the stadium. That's all you got. You don't have a ballpark village. You don't have a Wrigleyville situation. But they've done a great job with what they have. Um, we haven't even mentioned probably our favorite attraction of the inside of the stadium,
What I was
which
about to
was
bring
the
up.
museum. So they have a fantastic museum inside the stadium that goes into all kinds of history about the origins of the Royals, their prehistory even, where they had the Kansas City
Talks about the
Athletics.
Kansas City Blues, the Kansas City Athletics, the Kansas City Monarchs Negro League team. Wasn't there like a Kansas City Stallions?
I think so.
It,
Yeah.
it talks about all of Kansas City baseball.
Yep. And then they go on to talk about Kaufman, the original owner of the Royals, and how he kind of was able to bring his team to prominence, not because he knew baseball or anything, but because he brought the right people to lead his organization. He had a training academy, like one of the first of its kind,
And
and
he
things like that.
also, from day one, said, "This is not my team. This is a team that I own, but it is the city's team." So he didn't pick the name of the club. They hosted a contest that the folks of Kansas City and the surrounding area could submit ideas for the name. They could submit ideas for the logo. They could, and that's how they did it. Like, this wasn't some guy comes in and goes, "I kind of like that and I have the money, so what I say goes." They got screwed in 1967 by the A's at the time. Surprise, surprise, A's ownership screwed over a city and left. Where have we heard that one before? Um, and so when they left, the city was promised an expansion by 71. They ended up getting it for 1969. There's a lot that goes into that, but it's just so cool to see. And it's a it's a museum inside the stadium of that team that he started. So it's probably a little bit biased. I'm sure there's a few negative things that went along with Mr. Kaufman,
Hmm. Yeah.
but there's a lot of really good things that came with him that you can go and verify across a whole bunch of places. So it was really cool to see. And I
Yeah. I
think
learned a ton.
I was going to say my favorite part about it is it's entirely free if you're in the stadium. So all you got to do is pay for the cheapest ticket to a game and you're in. A lot of teams, their Hall of Fame, their museums are outside of the stadium. They have their own entrance fee. Not Kansas City. Cincinnati's that way. St. Louis is that way. This was a
Really,
lot
I
more
didn't
like
know that.
Yankee Stadium and
Yep.
the Yankees Hall of Fame, where if you come to a game, you can experience the history of the franchise. Period.
Yeah, and they just have a ton in there, going from all the legends of the franchise, from like your Frank White and to modern legends
Yeah,
like your
you're
Alex
George
Gordon.
Brett. You're
Yeah, but everybody's covered. They memorialize the two World Series wins in '85 and 2015. They have a ton of memorabilia from those events, and
and they're
yeah,
constantly updating it. We went to
yes,
2 games. We went to the museum both times, and the museum was not the same both times. It
right.
was
Yeah, they had
it
already
was
made a change within one day.
it was minor tweaks here and there, but you could just tell that they care a lot about their stuff. They brought in more Jackie Robinson and other Kansas City Monarchs stuff for the Saturday and Sunday games of that series. They moved out one of the Bobby Witt segments and then moved around some other stuff. It was super cool.
Yep, would highly recommend. We actually benefited from the rain delay on Sunday for about an hour. We spent a good chunk of time in there just taking in all the stuff that we didn't quite cover the first time, and that was amazing that we were able
Yeah.
to do that.
And they have an entire little corner that is a rotating exhibit of Cooperstown memorabilia. So you go in there, and it's not just Royals. They bring in things from basically just Cooperstown will just bring stuff. and put it up. So there was, I think, stuff from the basically any World Series the Cardinals have been in since after the 40s.
It was kind of like a history
Whether
of the fall classic,
yeah,
basically.
so all the
Then they
really
had
exciting ones like 1987, like 2004, like 2011.
yeah, they had all that stuff. They had a kind of an evolution of the bat and the ball and the baseball glove. How those have evolved. Those were
And the
great. I
ball.
mean, and the ball, yeah. So I learned that Mizuno in 1982 was working on radio technology for pitcher catcher communication, and here we are in the 2020s with PitchCom, and they were working on that 40 years ago.
And PitchCom sucks. So if Mizuno would have
Yeah,
kept working with it, maybe it would have been great.
right. Yeah.
Oh well, guess we'll never know.
So
Um,
everybody should
we
go to
also
Kauffman
learned about
Stadium,
Joe
basically.
Necro doctoring baseballs.
Yep, with his Emery board.
Yep, they have the actual Emery board in the museum.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I know. Um,
So I guess like in some we could not recommend Kauffman Stadium like any more highly than we are here. Like we loved it. It was just a
yeah,
great experience.
yeah. I actually, now that I've been there, I know that I've been in the past, like talking about various teams that I think do need new stadiums. That I think there's good solutions for, or good proposals for a solution, and some of them haven't been taken. Well, there's actually active votes for funding for a new stadium for both the Royals and the Chiefs, um, in both Kansas and Missouri. Whole bunch of different proposals. There's, I think there was a deadline of the 30th for one of the things. Um, but now that I've been there, I kind of just want them to put money into renovating it and then build up around it. Like
Yeah.
it would be so easy to do that and make this already really, really cool and unique sports complex into something even more incredible. Like they hosted an all-star game as recently as 2012. Like there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yep. Totally agree.
They need to repair some infrastructure pretty badly. There was some concrete fallen and reminded me of pre-renovation Wrigley, but
You got to get a souvenir
they
gash on your
renovated
head, right?
Wrigley and now it's
Yeah.
incredible. Why
Yeah.
not do the same with Kaufman?
Right. So, anything else on the Royals games or Kauffman or anything? Otherwise, we can move on to
Do we want to
our
go
other
ahead and talk
experience.
about Saturday, Sunday's games? Because I don't know that we really have.
Uh, we can, yeah, we can definitely mention them. Saturday, we watched at Q39 barbecue, and
Tasted
the Royals,
every meat on the menu.
yeah, we tasted every meat, and we watched one of the better Royals games probably they've had this year. They scored like 9 runs, I think. Had several homers. It was Shohei's first game or second game or third game starting.
Third
Uh,
game, first game that he went into a second inning.
yep,
He actually got through, say it was 7 batters in those 2 innings. Had 3 strikeouts. Looked pretty darn good.
yep. He threw a pitch at 102 miles per hour, I think. Got a double play ball on it.
Yeah,
But
and
then,
he managed to do it on 27 pitches, so he was incredibly efficient. A lot of
yep.
strikes.
But yeah, Royals decided they wanted to hit a lot in this game off Ben Kasperius and others. So it went quite well for the Royals. We probably should have gone to that game, honestly, but
Probably.
that's all right. And
It was
then
hot
Sunday,
enough. I
yeah,
I was okay with what.
right. And then
But
Sunday, actually, after the rain delay, it cooled down and it was very pleasant to sit in the ballpark at that point. And but the Royals kind of reverted back to their typical offense and did not do a whole lot. They had 5 total hits, um, 1 run that they scored in the first inning, and the Dodgers just took care of business in that game.
yeah, and Ike Hernandez is just continuing to be an anomaly that he does just enough to be a fan favorite, but not enough to be an all-star. And it boggles my
Right.
mind.
And I totally reverse like jinxed him or something.
Uh,
If I
you reverse jinxed two people because I believe later on you had said something about,
Miguel
was it?
Rojas or something,
I think so. And
probably
then
he
Miguel
had a good
Rojas
game.
ended up like uh having a, have an RBI. He
I think he
did.
had like a
He
couple
he
hits.
drove he drove in a run, had like a hit like immediately after you trashed him. He was 2 for 2
Yeah,
that game with a walk.
right.
So,
That's what I do.
well, stop it.
Okay. Hey, I brought Nolan Gorman back from the dead.
That's very true. So thank you for that.
Yeah. You're
Can
welcome.
you bring the rest of the team back from the
No,
dead,
no,
please?
no, no.
No.
Absolutely not.
Um,
So, yeah,
yeah, it
that
was
was
a fun
Kaufman.
series. Very much
It
enjoyed
was.
it. It was the Salute to the Negro Leagues series, conveniently, um, which was actually really, really cool. Um, Especially given the fact that Sunday they gave away a Kansas City Monarchs pin and had all these different facts and stats from Negro League history up on the board, basically throughout the whole game. And we head on Saturday onto the museum.
Yes. And the museum was a real treat. It was packed, first off, with lots of Dodgers fans, of course. We got in fairly close to the start, the open of the museum, and we got to meet a very special person, which I'm going to let you talk about here.
So I think I've talked about him before. I don't know if it's been on the pod or just pretty much just to Gautam and then my friends that know him. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum, since 1994, he's been pretty high up in the museum. He's been there basically since it opened. Um, but it had been my goal to get to talk to him and kind of thank him for uh, introducing me to a lot of information that I would have never known without. He's featured in MLB The Show for the last 3 years in the Negro League Storylines mode. All of those stories are told by Bob, and we we got to meet him. I did get to thank him. I got to tell him a little bit about some of my experiences and here in Indianapolis, which has a pretty storied Negro League history. Um, we got some pictures with him. I was very happy about that. Uh, but I think the single coolest thing is there was a book signing going to happen later. So Bob was around, and when Bob's around, Bob doesn't just sit down and just let people enjoy the or like walk through on their own. Bob gives tours. The president of the Negro League Museum, who's been there for 35 years, makes it his duty to go and gather as many people in the museum at once as he can and will walk them through the entire thing.
Yeah. And just
It's
a quick
incredible.
interjection. Once you start hearing this man talk, you want to stop doing your self-guided tour and you just want to start listening because this man is an expert storyteller. He just is able to just capture people's imagination and give his own experiences in the stories that he tells, his own connection to the different players that he's met over the years at the museum. Um, and it was amazing. Like it was such a priceless experience, really, for me.
Yeah. And uh, one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize while the Negro Leagues played into the 60s, um, there's only two living Negro Leagues players. So Bob is really the last connection that is accessible to most people to a lot of these guys. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people that had been around Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, and even Buck O'Neill as a coach with the Cubs. and scout for the Cubs and the Royals and founder of the museum. And so like a lot of people know about or know Buck O'Neill, the guys who came and played in the MLB, but there's not really all that many people had deep conversations and relationships with some of the lesser known guys like Cool Papa Bell. I mean, incredibly well known players, but to the common baseball fan, not incredibly known. Who was it we were talking about earlier? It was Pee Wee
Pee
Willis. Pee
Wee,
Wee
no, shoot,
no
what was his name? Powell, Pee Wee
Pee Wee
Powell.
Powell. There we go.
Yeah,
Willie Powell is his. Yeah, there we go. That's where I was getting Willie. It's Willie Powell. Pee Wee. Um, like that's a guy that unless you hear a story told by his family or a player that played with him or uh, you're never really going to know about him. Um, and it was just so cool. It is really funny because he has told those stories so many times that it essentially is scripted. If you've watched Negro League story or played through the Negro League storylines, there are some things that he says in that I don't think those videos were scripted. I think that's just what he would say in the museum. And
yeah,
so Satchel Paige, he would talk about Satchel and he'd talk about the names of the pitches. And I'm sitting
the
there
B
to
ball.
Gautam naming a few of the pitches. And then and I said, wait for the B ball. It's coming up. And then he talks about the B ball. And then Bob asks, well, you know why it was called the B ball? And it's usually a rhetorical question. Bob's told a story where there were some young kids who had played through the storylines that they raised their hand really proudly and said, I know. And they said it. But nobody spoke up here. I wanted to see what would happen. And Bob, in his perfect delivery, Satchel called it his B-ball because he said, quote, it be where I want it to be when I want it to be there. And honestly, that was the cherry
That
on
was
top for me for the day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
It was great, and they had a couple like other events going on there too. Like they had a book signing about um, like with the writer that had written a book about
shoot.
what's the fella's
I
name?
actually remember the name of the book.
He's a Dodgers player. He played for the Dodgers, and he was
Jim Gilliam, Mountain Dodger.
Jim. Yes, and I already forgot his name,
Yeah,
but
so Jim Gilliam was one of the 5 black players on the Dodgers in the kind of at that same time. But they would never play 5 starting black players at the same time. So Jim Gilliam was frequently rested, or they would rest. Shoot, who else was in that?
Jackie.
Yeah, it was Jackie. Trying to think who the outfielders were, because it was a full outfield. Jackie and Jim Gilliam at third base. So, but they would rest one guy each day so that they
Just so
would
they would
not
have
have a
4 guys in the
predominantly
lineup.
black team. It would be a predominantly white team that had a large black presence.
Right.
And so there was an entire like sit down with the author, Dr. Stephen Ditmore, um, and they just talked about Jim Gilliam and Bob off the top of his head was just rattling off anecdotes about Jim Gilliam. There's not really anything on the walls in the museum about Jim Gilliam at the moment. It's only a 10,000 square foot facility. It's honestly pretty small. Um, it's probably going to change. They're in
Yeah.
the process of renovating the Paseo YMCA, the very building where the Negro Leagues, like the official organized Negro Leagues, were founded by Rube Foster and I think it was 7 other owners. 6 of those other owners were black owners, and then there was J.L. Wilkinson. think is his name, that owned the Kansas City Monarchs, the one white owner in the league. They're renovating that building and adding some more to the facility to turn it into a 30,000 square foot museum complex with the Buck O'Neill uh it on it, the Buck O'Neill Advancement Center, I think.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be an entire complex. It's going to be incredible. There, um, you can still donate to the museum on the website. I have. I think it's an incredible thing that we have here. If you go through Cooperstown, there's really not that much information about the Negro. There's some, but other than the plaques in the Hall of Plaques and a small exhibit, you're not going to get most of this information. Getting it
Right.
at the NLB Museum in Kansas City is the way to go about it.
I was going to actually make a very similar point. I was going to say you might know more players in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, but we would strongly encourage that you also go check out this museum because you will learn a lot of new stuff, and it's equivalent to Cooperstown. It's as important.
Well, and honestly, I think if I were to do it again, I would do this museum first. I would do the NLB museum first because you go into Cooperstown and it's incredible. It's probably the single best museum I have ever experienced. Cooperstown is. And there's so much information about so many different eras, so many different players. Then you get to the Hall of Plaques, and there's just name after name after name. And a lot of the guys from like the 70s on, I pretty much knew every single name. Then you start seeing some of these guys who have been put in later from the Negro Leagues. Well, and it's like, well, he played pre Negro League baseball, pre 1920. Who's that guy? I don't know. It's Jose Mendez. That's who it is. Where can you learn about Jose Mendez? Negro League Baseball Museum. All of these incredible guys, Martin DeHigo, um, Josh Gibson, and John Donaldson. I think a lot of people know about them anyway. John Donaldson mostly from MLB The Show, but like Josh Gibson is the most famous Negro League player not named Jackie Robinson
Right.
or Satchel Paige. So, but I wish that I had gone to Kansas City first, learned the importance of some of these guys, and then got to see their plaque in the hall.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Would recommend. Definitely want to go back when they expand
Yeah.
because yeah, there's just so much more to learn. This museum is very thorough. It's got obviously more complete information than any other place you can go, but there's so many more stories that can be unearthed that people can learn about, and I'm just incredibly intrigued and want to learn more because of my visit there.
And I think the one other thing to note, and I mean, I guess this is probably the best time to use this phrase. This museum does not whitewash anything because the point of it is to not. The point is to tell you what actually happened. There are direct quotes from Cap Anson and Kennesaw Mountain Landis right inside the front door about why they didn't want black players in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
And there is a similar plaque in Cooperstown said this man was racist. We don't condone what he said. It doesn't tell you what he said. We don't condone what he said, but we think it's important that you know. But then it doesn't tell you. It kind of makes you imply. But then this museum, you walk through and you get the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And it's incredibly refreshing. It hits you incredibly hard. Like, it's not a museum that you can just go in and take lightly.
Right.
And you shouldn't. It's an important piece that most people don't know.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely it helps you see history in a different light. Obviously, the tellers of the story are the ones that write the history, but when you
And
see
it
both museums,
kind of
you
helps you
get
see now in a different light.
absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely incredible. And I know he's definitely not going to be listening to our podcast, but a massive thank you to Mr. Kendrick. It was an incredible day. Just thank you to him. So,
All right, so that's our trip. Let us know what you think. Hit us up if you have any questions about Kansas City that hopefully we can try to answer.
or if you've
And
been, you have other comments on what we've talked about or other things that maybe we missed uh, or didn't go to and we need to go back to because I'm down to go back.
yeah, you don't have to convince us.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
so we're gonna jump into this week's big topic
Ryan
around
Ludus.
baseball. Ryan Ludis, designated for assignment.
Not designated for
No,
assignment.
optioned.
No. Optioned.
Sorry.
He's still in the organization. Um,
Yes.
he had a great outing, by the way. His curveball, or not his curveball, his changeup looked sharp this time. He was locating it where he wanted it. He got one strikeout of, I believe it was Jaron Duran, and then got a pop up and a pretty like soft ground ball. His fastball was up to 96, almost 97. Changeup looked good. Probably the best outing I've seen Ryan have in the majors. And then after the game, I got a text from him that said, "Yeah, unfortunately, I was optioned immediately after the game because we need a starting pitcher tomorrow." Then, then
And
what happened?
then we had some big news on Sunday evening from Nationals managing principal owner. That's weirdly his title. Mark Lerner uh, fired uh, president of baseball operations Mike Rizzo and manager Davey Martinez. So just a massive news piece here that 1 week before the MLB draft, the top decision maker for the Washington Nationals is not going to be there to make the Nationals' number one draft pick selection next Sunday night. And they're moving on from their World Series winning combination of manager and GM here. So I don't know. It's not shocking in the sense that the Nationals are clearly underperforming. They have the fourth worst record in the majors right now. A lot of their players have not panned out. There are good, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But just the timing of this move is bizarre because they're
Yeah.
turning it over to like the assistant GM to make this draft happen, and
Who
I
is
don't
the
remember
assistant
who.
GM?
I don't know.
Uh, Mike DiBartolo.
And then
And
who's
then
taking
Miguel
the
Cairo,
reins?
the bench
Okay,
coach, is the interim manager.
yeah.
Which I had seen a couple articles that I hadn't actually read them yet, but essentially the headline was move makes sense, timing doesn't. And that's something that I have seen about 8 times since this has happened, and I agree with it. I think this is a move that I kind of expected last offseason. I think we both kind of did. And
Sort of,
then
yeah.
they extended Mike Rizzo year and a
Hmm.
half or 2 years ago, maybe year and a half,
I think so. Yeah.
and it was a bit shocking. It did the team sell like a large stake?
They they did not sell. They threatened to sell, but it didn't really happen.
Okay,
They pulled back.
because it was around that time that they extended him, but now they have some really talented players. Right now, the division is a bit more wide open than I think anyone expected it to be, and they're not living up to their expert to their ability. So
Yeah, but let's just talk about Mike Rizzo here for a second because Mike Rizzo, I believe he's the second longest tenured head man for a baseball organization in MLB. I think only Cashman's been around longer. Um,
which is
and
shocking.
shocking, but I think we actually have to recognize Mike Rizzo for being a great executive. He won a World Series with this Nationals team. He was the guy that made fantastic signings of Jason Worth and Max Scherzer. He drafted Bryce Harper and Steven Strasburg. I realized those guys were generational type talents, but he still did it, and he still kind of took this team from nothing when he took over to making it like a really, really good team, World Series champion. And then I truly believe the Nationals were the team that was hurt the most by COVID, and just they didn't get any of the benefit of winning the World Series because they didn't have fans to relish in the victory of their World Series the next season. They had no fans. So um I don't know. Things have been in a really rough shape the last like 5 years, but even during that, we've seen so many glimpses of good things happening for the Nats. Like the trade that they made for Juan Soto, clearly incredibly important to the future of the organization. That has been a resounding success.
Yeah.
The guys they've got back from it, you cannot argue with the deal he made at the time because that is not the problem with the Nets right now. Mackenzie Gore is an all-star. James Wood's an all-star. CJ Abrams is essentially having a all-star type season. So it's like that's not the issue. It's just everything else. To me, it's ownership that has
Yeah.
never supported this team the way that it should be supported.
Agreed. And so Mike Rizzo, I guess first of all, do you know when he became the manager or the actual GM, not the assistant, but the actual GM? And do you know why he became the actual GM?
I don't know what year. Tell me.
So he was an assistant GM in 2006. However, he was named the interim GM in March 2009 after Jim Bowden resigned from the bonus skimming scandal.
Okay.
So then, because that team was so bad under Jim Bowden, they had the number one picks in 2009 and 10 that got them Steven Strasburg and Bryce Harper, which Rizzo was the guy who made those picks. I
Mhm.
think they were kind of slam dunk picks. I don't know that there was really any other choice. Um, but then his first big free agent signing was Jason Worth before 2011, and that was a pretty successful contract for that.
Very successful. Yeah.
Um, and then we've seen all the drafts that he's had since. They've drafted some pretty darn good players. They've got some pretty good draft prospects and or sorry, pretty good prospects that are still in the system that they drafted, like Brady House, who's now up at the major league level, not taking off incredibly quickly, but still time. But yeah, so there's a ton of good stuff that he did. He brought in Dusty Baker as manager and then brought in Davey. They won the World Series. Like, there's a lot of good stuff that happened under. Oh, he also
So did
drafted
he?
Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean Anthony Rendon was the best player of that draft class, and he was a huge part of the World Series team.
Lucas Giolito, Eric Fetty,
Yep.
um, Dylan Cruz, who's already in the majors. So, yeah, like he's got some pretty big names in there that he's drafted in just the first round.
Yeah.
And then he's the guy who signed a little known player uh, known as Juan Soto.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
he's the guy that got a return for Juan Soto when you were clearly going to lose it. And
Right.
Scherzer and Turner. Yeah, he didn't
It's
trade Harper in Harper's last year or like at the deadline, but they had a
so
chance to
yeah,
re-sign him. So I get it.
I'm just curious to hear like what Nationals fans think about Mike Rizzo. Is he going to have like a positive legacy? Are people going to remember him fondly? Because I feel like I have a positive impression of Mike Rizzo as an executive because I feel like his overall body of work is really good considering the uh the ownership support that he's had, and it was very pointed the way he thanked the organization because he thanked the players, he thanked the coaches, he thanked the fans. He did not thank the guy that fired him, which makes a lot of sense. But it's been like I think the learners are like some of the worst owners in the league. We talk about some of the other bad owners. The learners have been like this now for multiple generations. Like Mark Lerner's dad was pretty much exactly like his son now, in the way that they just don't. They run it like a business. They don't run it like a team that's trying to win consistently.
It's an incredibly awkward situation right now. And what pick do the Nats have in
They
this
have the
draft?
number 1 overall pick.
Oh, wait, they have the number 1 pick.
Correct. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's a monumental decision for the franchise because if you screw this up, you're passing up, you're passing up the best player in the draft potentially.
Yeah. And there's not a like guaranteed number 1 player this year. This isn't 2009, 2010.
And
There's
that's
like
why it makes it
6 guys.
even
Yeah, there's like 6 guys who are all possibly going 1-1 and only
right.
one
And
guy that is a consensus top 4.
right. So it may actually be an opportunity, and I'm not saying this is like necessarily the right thing to do. I'm just saying as a possibility, the Nationals could take like a undersop player because there is no consensus, so they can save money for future rounds. But it's a very complicated decision they have to make. It's not the slam dunk of a lot of years.
Yeah, and we're a week away.
We're a week away, so they've got to be just scrambling right now to figure out like if the guy that's in charge kind of agreed with Mike Rizzo's positioning for this draft, or is he going to completely flip things around and do something off the cuff, put his own spin on this draft? It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. Wow. The more I'm realizing about this, the more shocked I kind of am that this.
Right. Yeah. And then we haven't really talked about Davey that much, and I'm not really sure what I think about Davey. I think he's a decent manager. Like
I think he's
he
okay.
he
I
wasn't.
don't think he moves the needle either way. Like he's
No, he's
not
like a
bad, but he's
average
not good.
manager. Right.
Like
And I think he
I th-
gets credit.
I
He
thought
should
he was
get
getting
credit for
fired
like
3 years ago.
yeah, it kind of seemed like he was, but I think he's done pretty well with the young players, like making some developments. Like we've had successes. I say like CJ Abrams is like an example of success for Davey Martinez, and maybe he gets another managerial job, but he he probably didn't deserve the firing.
Yeah, and I mean he was just fired because Rizzo was
He's tied to
like
Rizzo,
yeah.
yeah.
It's they want to give the next guy the chance to pick a manager. Now, would I have stuck with Davey for the rest of the season and fired him after the season? Probably.
Probably would have done that with Rizzo, to be honest, or at least waited until the trade deadline.
Yeah, they should have. They
Yeah.
didn't. So,
We
at least at that point, keep Davey. It's not like you're going to have an interim GM hire a manager mid-season.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
So,
And I don't remember the exact name, but it's been years and years since we've actually had an executive fired before the trade deadline. I cannot remember the name right now, but it does not happen often at all. But and also for trade deadline, does this completely change uh, their calculations for trade deadline, could they make a bold move and trade Mackenzie Gore, for example, with like 2+ years before he reaches free agency and get a massive return?
I mean, it's quite possible. Like, none of these really good players that they have right now are really all that young. Like, Dylan Cruz
Except
was a college bat, so he's
James
23.
Wood is really young, right?
James Wood is really young, yes.
And
But
CJ's still quite young.
yeah, but he's already isn't he already in arbitration? He enters
Maybe.
arbitration next year.
Yeah.
So there's only two guys out of James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams, Luis Garcia, and Dylan Cruz who are not going to be in arbitration next year. So if they're not planning on contending in the next year, probably makes sense for them to trade Luis Garcia, Mackenzie Gore, maybe CJ Abrams. Because
That
two of
would
those
be
guys, they
quite the
only have 2 more
shakeup.
years of control anyway. Abrams, they have
Yeah.
3, and the other guys, they have 5. So they've really put themselves in a weird spot.
Definitely.
You could finally say that maybe they were going to contend next year. Now I don't think you can.
Probably not. But yeah, it's been quite the year for managerial firings, and here we have a GM firing as well. So we'll see what the second half brings, I guess.
After this past week and a half, I'm surprised Ali Marmol hasn't been fired.
Yeah.
Hoping for
Okay,
that for a little too long.
let's talk about some all stars here.
All
We
stars. All
got
right.
all stars, and we don't have a lot of time here, so let's just give me an all star that you want to talk about from either team.
I got to get the roster pulled back up. Okay, so Jacob Wilson, all star starter as a rookie shortstop for the American League.
Yeah,
Incredibly deserving of that role. Especially in the American League, I don't know that there's really all that many shortstops that are having like insanely great years. So having a guy who's hitting pretty close to 340, 350 with a little bit of power, that's kind of cool to see for the A's. Given all of the crap that is going on with that team right now. He's hitting 335 at the moment, but he was hitting close to 350.
yeah. I guess I mean I agree. Jacob Wilson is a deserving all star, but like Bobby Witt's still my starting shortstop.
I get that, but
But
the starters are chosen by fans, and so the fact that an A's player got voted in means that a lot of people are paying attention to him.
that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it's just because people see the batting average and they just vote for him. But
I mean, it
yeah,
probably is, but he's also got what 10 homers or something like that, 9 home
homers.
runs
Yeah.
with a
No, yeah,
335
he's
average.
having a comparable first half season to Bobby Witt, but
Yeah.
Bobby Witt's the all star, and he did make the team.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, he did make the team as a reserve. As did another A in Brent Rooker.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The guy that I wanted to highlight was Javi, because if you told me like 2 years ago that Javier Baez was ever going to make another All Star team, I would have just been like, "What?" And now the fans. I mean, he's always been a fan favorite player, so for him to have kind of a resurgent season, comeback player of the year type season, where he's just done kind of Javi things, and he's played all over the field, played center field and third base and shortstop, and playing them all well. He's still got his bat speed, and he's kind of just making things happen, even though the numbers under the hood don't necessarily they don't like jump out at you, but that's kind of who Javi is as a player. He kind of defies traditions, and he just does things his own way, and it's kind of worked for him. That's how he's made his career, and he's the all-star starting center fielder in 2025. That's crazy.
I do think Buxton probably
He
deserved that
deserves
spot.
it. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's wild to see Javi get that. I do think it's one of those that Javi was partially because the team is so good. Because
Yeah.
the Tigers have the second most All Stars after the Dodgers.
And they have what? The best record in the league. That
Yep.
typically is how that goes.
And that's how the Rangers ended up with basically the entire starting lineup a couple years ago in
Yep. Yep.
2023. And but yeah, no, it is cool to see him get it. And Riley Green is a starter. Glaber is a starter with the Tigers. Not
Yeah.
something
He's
I
having a
expected to
fantastic
see.
season. Yeah.
And then
Um
the pitching all kind of makes sense. It's just about everybody you'd expect to be there. A couple guys missed because you have to give a couple teams some all stars. So Yusei Kikuchi and Shane Smith probably took a spot that somebody else would have had. They're also not bad pitchers.
yeah.
Like there's a reason they were the pick. So now, what about over on the National League side? Anybody that stands out to you there?
Um I think the guy, where'd my list go?
I was gonna say
One moment.
nothing in the starting lineup jumps out at me as being weird. Um, is actually pretty close to what I voted for. I think.
Yeah.
So
I think outside of this position players, the one always a cool thing that happens in all-star games is like first time all-stars. And Matt Boyd is an all-star for the first time and he's like 34 years old. And he's having a legit all-star season. His ERA is in the mid twos. And he's a guy that he hasn't pitched more than like 90 innings in a season since 2019. And this year he stayed healthy and he's been able to go out and be as successful as he's ever been. So that's just like a very cool success story, especially for a guy that come back from Tommy John, has had so many shortened seasons due to injury. For him to actually like keep persisting, and then when he finally gets healthy, it's showing up in the results, and he's now getting their recognition for it.
yeah, and kind of on a in the complete opposite end, um, we have the commissioner pick this year, which
Yes.
is new with this CBA. Um, it's something that I love that they've done it. Um, being able to add an extra player to the roster at the commissioner's discretion for players who have um, essentially eclipsed like historical milestones or at the end of their historic career. So Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols were the first two to ever get it in the first year it existed. I don't think we've had one since then in 2022. But then this year, Clayton
They had
Kershaw,
Miggy, right?
Miggy was the same year as Pujols.
Oh, same year.
Yeah. Um, they didn't do one for Yachty. They didn't do one for, well, that would have been the same year. They didn't do one for like Wayno and guys like that retiring. I think they've been keeping it exclusively for like, these are going to be Hall of Famers. Pretty much no doubt. And so Clayton Kershaw got the bid this year. He just eclipsed 3,000 career strikeouts here last week. Um, he's been pitching since 2008. He's coming on 20 years in the big leagues, and he's only 36, 37.
Yeah.
Like, he's had one hell of a career. And so seeing him get this nod, it's not a guarantee that he's retiring after this year either. So this is he hit a milestone that very few people are ever going to meet again. Because pitching long enough to get to 3,000 strikeouts simply doesn't happen anymore.
Yep. Very cool achievement. And yeah, I like that little commissioner nod to a awesome player.
Which the commissioner is actually the reason why the Dodgers have the most stars this year.
Oh,
Because
okay.
without that pick, they would be tied with the Tigers.
Oh, okay. Nice. Well, that's I think all we've got for you. So hope you enjoyed the episode. Go visit Kansas City. Go visit the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Um,
And hit us up and let us know
and
what your thoughts are, because honestly, I loved it so much. I'd been reading into all that stuff before we went because I had already become obsessed. Now I'm kind of doubling down. I think you're on board now too.
yeah, I think we're
So
gonna probably be incorporating some of that stuff in future episodes too. And yep. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time.
if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.